is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Asus VivoBook Q200. Yes, Vivo, like Vivo Las Vegas. Also available as the X202, and we're going to talk about both of those in this video review. This is obviously a Windows 8 touchscreen notebook. Right here you can see we got touchscreen going on. Normal notebook hinge though. This does not swivel, flip, or do anything wild and crazy like that. 11.6 inches, compact, and there's a little bit of that ZenBook thing going on. You've got a metal deck here, we've got a metal lid. It's really not a bad looking product, picks up fingerprints a little bit. Got that pretty wedge-shaped design, again, a lot like a ZenBook. Not as super thin, it's about 0.8 inches thick at the thickest point, but still fairly compact, 3 pounds. Matte bottom, so a quality piece, and guess what? $550 to $600 for this. We're going to look at it now. So the Asus VivoBook. There are going to be several VivoBook models, so to be specific, we have the Q200 here, and which looks identical to the X202 that you'll find outside of Best Buy. The Q200 is the Best Buy model, and there are some tech differences inside we're going to talk about that are pretty important. But first off, let's look at the outside of this 11.6-inch ultra-portable notebook. Nice metal brush top again. Asus ZenBook Prime kind of look going on here. Certainly for the price tag, that's nice to have. A little bit of plastic here, so antennas can actually get some reception. Asus has learned their lesson there. Pretty curved design here. Again, a kind of signature Asus look. SD card slot going on. Combo mic headphone jack, 3.5mm. USB 2.0 port here. VGA port. And on this side we have USB 3.0 port, another 2.0 port, full-size HDMI. Nice in a small body to have that. 10100 Ethernet, not gigabit, sorry, and this is Atheros. And we have our security slot over here, and that's the power charging port. Front edge is pretty narrow looking. Attractive machine overall. And in the back you can see what the rear hinge view looks like. Pretty robust hinge mechanism, fairly stiff. That's always good with the touchscreen notebook, so when you're poking at it, the display doesn't keep wobbling around on you. And on the bottom, yay, unlike Ultrabooks, this thing is actually openable. You undo several Phillips head screws here. You can take this bottom off and you can access the single RAM slot here, standard DIMM slot, and the SATA port for the hard drive. It comes with a 2.5-inch standard 500 gig, 5400 RPM hard drive. This is not a SSD. You're not going to get that for your money. You're not even going to get a 32 gig flash assist drive to speed things up. So straight hard drive experience here. Your vent ports over here, little rubber feet. Does not get too hot. I don't expect it to, because this is running on an Intel Core i3 CPU. Those generally don't get too hot. And as we open it and look inside again, it's very ZenBook-like. We've got this brushed aluminum deck here, good looking, a little cold on a cold day to touch, but warms up a little bit, does not get too hot overall. Fairly large trackpad that supports Windows 8 gestures. Now, the drivers, all information about this, just refer to it as Asus trackpad, so Asus is hiding who made this thing. I can tell you out of the box, it was not a good experience. It wasn't the typical Synaptics Windows 8 experience we've seen. I don't know if this is made by Senolytics, since Asus has been partnering with them previously with ZenBook Primes and ZenBook units, or who the heck makes it. But anyway, we got a driver update. Very important to visit your desktop every once in a while for your straight Windows experience here, and check for Asus updates. Actually, will auto-check, but you have to tap on a little notification and it'll show you if there's any updates. Wildly improved the trackpad, no longer something that makes me go insane. The display can go back about yay far, not too far. I find it's adequate, but that does get to one thing, viewing angles on this. So far, a lot of the Windows 8 full Intel machines we've looked at have had pretty nice IPS displays. This is a TN panel. So, yeah, TN panels don't have the broadest viewing angles. As TN panels go, this one is not too hideous. It has reasonably good contrast, and it's not too hard to find the sweet spot, but you're not going to have an IPS-like experience. But again, that's why this is $550 to $600 instead of $1,000 to $1,100. Those are some of the concessions we make. The keyboard here, it's 11.6-inch, folks, so it's not going to be too roomy, but they did a good job of maximizing the space here, bringing the keyboard out to the far edges. Pretty easy to type on, actually easier to type on than the Sony Vaio Duo 11 that we recently reviewed, which has a somewhat more compressed keyboard, even though it's also 11.6 inches. So didn't have too much trouble typing on this. Key travel, not super duper high, but you do get some tactile feel here. Not a bad keyboard, not backlit. Again, we're talking about something that's very reasonably priced, so you're not going to get creature comforts like a backlit keyboard. You got your standard FN row up here. By default, you do use the FN key to operate These as multimedia controls in the BIOS. You can change that if you wish. Standard layout, oversized shift key like you'd expect, big backspace, big enter key, all the stuff's normal. And to get to your home to your Windows thing, you've got your Windows key right here if you want to go to the desktop, for example. You just hit that. Some touchscreen notebooks actually have a little button right there to do the same thing, but since this is in no way detachable, well, it doesn't have that. Again, permanently installed, 11.6-inch design, just happens to have a touchscreen, which is a nice thing to have because Windows 8, well, it shines with touch, not so much if you're just using it with a mouse or trackpad and keyboard. So doing things like this suddenly becomes pleasant. But you can do things like use the trackpad, and again with the driver update this actually works pretty well. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, you can do the same thing inside of photographs, it works just fine. And so does the touchscreen, responsive, 10 points of multi-touch. Just a capacitive multi-touch screen. This does not work with any kind of digital pen. Again, you're not going to see that feature in this price range in a full notebook computer that costs around the same price as an iPad. In terms of internals, let's talk the good news first. I really suggest you get the Asus VivoBook X202. It's available from several different retailers, and that's because it has 3rd generation Intel Ivy Bridge Core i3 CPU. Now, I'm not so hot on the Core i3s, but in the case of a budget machine and something that you want to run cool and quiet, well, then it's forgivable. The only reason I don't like the Core i3 so much is because it doesn't do turbo boost, so you're not going to get that maximum performance level. But if you do get the X202, you're going to get the 1.0 GHz Intel Core i3 3217U processor. That's a ultra-low voltage ULV CPU, obviously, with Intel HD 4000 graphics. So that's a fairly capable machine that can run the desktop apps that you want probably decently well, even if you want to run some Photoshop. I mean, I wouldn't use this for HD video editing. I wouldn't count this as a serious Photoshop machine, but for getting all the normal stuff done, your office, your web, your email, watching some videos, even HD videos in 1080p through HDMI out, certainly fine for that. It comes with 4 gigs of DDR3 1333 megahertz RAM if you get the X202, and there is a DIMM slot in there, so you could upgrade that yourself if you want. And again, a 2.5-inch standard SATA drive, 500 gig, 5400 RPM. One thing about that versus the SSD assisted or the full SSD drive machines we look at is boot times are a bit longer. Instead of being nearly instantaneous, you're going to wait about 10 seconds for this machine to boot up and for everything to fully load. Applications are going to take a little bit longer to launch. But the upside is that you get 500 gigs of storage space, which certainly is lovely compared to the cramped SSD drives. It has an HD webcam built in here with a microphone. It has single band Atheros Wi-Fi BGN, 802.11 BGN, no dual band there, and you get Bluetooth 4.0 if you get the X202 model. It has a 2-cell 5136 milliampere hour battery inside. That's a pretty hefty battery for such a little guy, and that's one of the reasons probably why it's, you know, not ultra thin, but not unbearable. And so far, Windows 8 touchscreen machines have not had the best battery life in our tests, and this guy's actually doing pretty well. It's doing as well as the Yoga and lasting about 5 hours on a charge. And I mean the Lenovo IdeaPad Yoga 13, which runs on an Intel Core i5 with a 13.3-inch display. 3.8 pounds, as I mentioned, so very portable. Now let's talk about the Q200 edition. There's the not-so-good news. Again, the Q200 is identical in terms of look, feel, casing, everything is the same. Just you get a 2nd generation Intel Core i3 CPU in there, so you get last year's CPU. Why would you want to do that just to save $50? Don't do it, folks. Do not get the Best Buy Q200 model. Get that X202. It's just not worth the $50 you're saving there. But just in case you go ahead and get it anyway, that's the 1.4 gigahertz i3 2365U ULV CPU. Still has 4 gigs of RAM, still 1333 megahertz. Still, again, the same internals, same everything, so you still get the SATA drive connector, the DIMM slot inside for upgrading it yourself, and it doesn't have Bluetooth, unlike the 3rd generation X202 machine. Still single band Wi-Fi, that stays the same. In the PCMark Vantage benchmark, this is the Best Buy version, the VivoBook Q200. It scored a wildly lackluster 1523 on PCMark 7 benchmark. To compare that, the Vio Duo 11, granted a more expensive machine, it's about $1,100. That one scored almost 5,000, as did the Lenovo IdeaPad Yoga 13, both of which have SSD drives. And granted, PCMark Vantage and PCMark 7, like many benchmarking programs, do give a lot of weight to speedy SSDs, but still not super fast. But A lot brighter than an Intel Atom CPU with Clover Trail CPU inside. Let me tell you, this is certainly still going to be a step up. And if you go with the X202 with the 3rd gen Ivy Bridge CPU in there, definitely a big step up from Atom. So you'll notice the difference. Atom CPUs really struggle, and CPU utilization will stay pegged quite easily if you're doing something like playing video, editing big files in Photoshop. So still definitely a viable middle ground, and again for the price, gee, it's pretty good. So what are you not getting by saving a bunch of money and getting this for $550 to $600? You're getting a lower resolution display relative to something like the Yoga and like the Vio Duo. The Vio Duo is a full 1920 by 1080p display. The Yoga 13 is 1600 by 900. This is 1366 by 768. Honestly, in an 11.6 inch screen size, it's not like fonts are going to look giantly nasty and pixelated. You will see the difference if you look at the two screens, but that's what you're getting. You're also getting the TN panel, as I noted, versus an IPS panel, so you're losing viewing angles and you're losing contrast, but it's not too terrible a panel either. We do notice a little bit of light bleed along the edge over here and a little bit on this side over here. It seems like it wouldn't be Asus if it didn't have some light bleed, but it's nothing terrible. Clearly you're not getting the same performance levels when you get a machine that has a Core i5 or Core i7 in it as well, and you don't get dual band Wi-Fi, you don't get a backlit keyboard, so those are the key things here. But like I said, it's up to you. You know what you need, what you don't need, and I think for the price, hey, if you're on a budget, those concessions are certainly okay to live with. Performance is good on it. We've got standard Windows 8 here, the full experience, both the desktop that can run Windows 7, x86 applications, and the new Live Tile apps as well. So we've got things like the pretty weather, and the speed at which these load in part depends on the speed of your internet connection, by the way, because all these are pulling data from online information sources. So you get beautifully visual weather here, radar maps, the whole thing. Gorgeous looking news app. Now this has such high production values, Microsoft News application, even in a lower resolution display like this, everything looks very colorful and sharp. It's just, see how sharp that is, how nice, it's gorgeous. And for something that's fairly heavyweight, it loads pretty quickly. Well, most of the time. And there we've got our article loaded, side swipe through it. These are always a very nice way to consume news and information. And if you want access to all your programs, the Start menu, as we've noted in our other Windows 8 reviews, is gone. Although there are little utilities that'll bring it back if you miss it, but here's all our applications over here. So you have everything that you use to a command prompt, you got administrative settings, WordPad, all the goodies you hear, calculator. We've installed Office 2013 trial on this. It does not ship with that. It comes with Office 2010 trial edition, which you're going to have to register for a 60-day trial on. But since 2010 is outgoing anyway, I suggest just download 2013 for free and give that a try until full version is available to buy. And if you want to go to your desktop and run all your Windows programs, there you go. And you can see the bloatware that Asus has installed. Well, a couple of them are useful. You get some Asus Cloud storage here, you get Asus VOD, and a bunch of casual games that they've bundled. And speaking of games, well, it's a Core i3. Even if you get the 3rd generation, you're not going to be playing Black Ops 2 on this. It's just Intel HD 4000 integrated graphics, but it can play casual games easily. You might even be able to get away with Left 4 Dead 2 at native resolution or a little bit lower, and certainly older games that are 2 or 3 years old should run okay on this as long as they're not super duper demanding. I don't mean Fear 2 or Crisis 2 or something like that, but something like Rise of Nations, one of the older Civ games, that could work on this. For our Windows Experience Index, again, this is the Q200 with the 2nd gen rather than 3rd gen Core i3. You can see our scores here. Processor gets a 5.3, memory gets a 5.9, which is what we see on many notebooks. Desktop graphics 4.4, 3D graphics 5.7, and disk speed 5.9. Again, pretty standard for a spinning conventional hard drive, and that's on a scale that goes from 1 to 9.9. With Windows 8, the scale goes up to 9.9, whereas it used to stop at 7.9. You have IE, both the full screen version and then the traditional version that we have right here that you're used to, exactly the same as you have on Windows 7 PC. Now here we've loaded our own website, Mobile Tech Review. Certainly scrolls just fine. Rendering speeds are pretty good for zooming. Adobe Flash is pre-installed on this. And we'll check out a video. of the Lenovo Yoga 13 to see how video playback goes. And we'll increase our quality, and you can hear the speakers are actually fairly loud. We'll go up to 720p. It's appropriate for the display size. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the new Lenovo IdeaPad Yoga 13. And it's already created a new verb for us here. Looks pretty good. It's playing fine. Doing this. You won't have wild levels of color saturation here, but not bad. Very watchable, pleasing, sharp. Contrast, again, not too bad. The VivoBook comes with a very compact charger. Those of you who have owned Asus Android tablets will recognize this little block charger here. Also, ZenBooks have had this. It's interesting, isn't it? Small, square, very compact, long, skinny cord, easy to carry. So that's the Asus VivoBook. Again, the Q200 and the X202. We recommend the 202, not so much the Q200 that you're going to find at Best Buy, but a lot of bang for the buck, certainly, for those of you who really want to get one of those touchscreen notebooks, especially in an ultra portable form factor, but you don't want to spend $1,000 or so, which is what most of them cost, yet you get full Intel Core CPUs here, no Atom. Not a bad buy. A few caveats as we've shown you, but overall, not a bad purchase. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review of the Asus VivoBook, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.